Kicking off the list at number 10, dance. Yeah, we'll start off a little bit fun and then we'll ease into the scary, life-changing stuff. I danced a lot growing up. I was in the hip-hop team for a while, believe it or not. What's up? Schools would battle each other at competitions. It was a blast. It was super fun. But imagine getting in a dance-off with a robot. Imagine a robot doing the robot. That's just meta. That's mind-blowing. This is where we start to dive into Boston Dynamics. They're an American engineering and robotics design company and they launched back in 1992. But now, more than ever, in the last couple of years, their brand has been all over the internet because of like this. This was uploaded on Boston Dynamics' YouTube page a year ago, and since then, many believe it to be fake. The fine folks at Corridor Crew made a 20-minute video explaining how it just simply can't be. It's very real. I did a lot of research. I don't know what to think about this. People were losing their minds, rightfully so. If robots can dance better than your Uncle Lou at a wedding, what hope do any of us have, really? Number 9, walk. Alright, now we'll get back into the first few steps now that we're talking about the crazy robot stuff. After all, how scary can a robot simply walking be? Well, what if it wasn't being controlled? What if a robot taught itself how to walk in just a few hours? Google made this nightmare a reality about a year ago. These AI-powered robots, ideally created to perform in harsh conditions, without the need of humans, flipping them back over and all that jazz. Now, it sounds like a good idea, it sounds like the thing we need, until we realize, wait, we just taught robots how to walk on their own. Yes, we're in a Black Mirror episode. Oops! Chelsea Finn, an assistant professor at Stanford who works with Google, believes this to be an exciting time. She says removing the person from the process is really hard in these scenarios. By allowing robots to learn more autonomously, robots are closer to being able to learn in the real world that we live in rather than a controlled lab. So far, this tech needs a mocap system above the bot, so we're not there yet. Number 8. Tumble. The amount of times I lost my footing as a kid and fell, scraped my knees, and cried for 46 minutes, too many to count. Even when you put your hands out before you fall, it's natural, it's your instincts. Your palms are getting sanded by the road. It's hot, it sucks. Robots at the Georgia Institute of Technology are learning how to fall with style. The DARPA Robotics Challenge began back in 2011, and as advanced as these robots have been in the past, they are quite heavy. When they fall, they do damage to their systems or motors, like we do to our knees or palms. Expensive repairs are needed, as you can imagine. So these researchers are programming these robots to have a little more drama when they fall, so now they purposely try and connect with the ground to either break the fall or use gravity to propel itself forward. This robot was being pushed over and over to test the algorithm, so there's a mocap camera in the nervous system so it can adapt in real time. If you think robots learning how to roll is scary, we're not even close yet. Buckle up. Number 7, lie. Without technology, we wouldn't be able to successfully blast humans to the moon and then bring them home. The calculations had to be precise. NASA relied on their technology to safely bring back their crew. But what if the tech we relied on today lied to us tomorrow? What if your calculator just gave you the wrong number because it felt like it? What if your alarm clock decided to go back a few hours just for fun, just to get some, extra sleep? We'd be screwed. Technology can't lie to you, right? It's impossible, right? Back in 2009, an experiment was run at the Laboratory of Intelligent Systems in Switzerland. These robots, these small toy-looking cars, were each equipped with an omnidirectional camera, a color ring, and ground sensors next to its tracks. There were about 1,000 of these divided into 10 groups. Each bot had its own 264-bit binary code genome, so they could all react differently, individually. They were programmed to light up once they found this good resource, so other bots can then find it as well and they're attracted to the light. While 60% of these robots just began lying to preserve the resource for themselves. They were selfish. They would receive negative points if they found the bad resource, so there was a reason for this robot greed. These robots didn't want to blow their secret and in result end up getting pushed away from the result. Imagine if your Google Maps drove you away from phone service because it wanted to save you data. That's the kind of shit we're talking about here. This idea makes me uneasy. Let's move on. Number 6. Stunts. Today's blockbusters are incredibly immersive. Technology is helping directors tell a visually striking story, and if they're done well enough, we'll actually believe that Thanos is real, that he's a real threat to our planet. But if CGI space adventures aren't your thing, maybe it's the fact that Tom Cruise does most of his own stunts, maybe that's what brings you back to the theaters. Maybe it's John Wick just kicking dudes off motorcycles, whatever. Stunt work makes the difference. Any glimpse at real danger, you can't help but lean in and be invested. But those stunts involved can of course cause fatal accidents on set. It happens more often than we think. That's where Disney Imagineering comes into play. If we can get robots to do these stunts instead of people, we could literally save lives. The only problem is the reason we have stunt performers in the first place. It has to look real. These robots, appropriately named stickmen, are a great first step. Robots taking over the world would be terrible, but if they were all doing backflips the entire time, how mad could you really be, honestly? Number 5. Control-Alt-Delete. With today's tech, we can find any file on any of our personal devices from anywhere. iCloud is intimidating, but once you get it down, it's insanely useful. AI-assisted robots seem to be the future in one way or another, as we've discussed. But what happens when the "my dog ate my homework" excuse starts to get old? What if homework is all online? What if everything moves online? Then what? Well, you can always try the "my computer deleted it randomly" method. Sounds like a load of rubbish, but after a problem-solving test was conducted, a robot decided to delete a list of numbers rather than sort them. Why the betrayal? What went wrong? I mean, trust me, I hate homework too, but you gotta get it done. This algorithm could solve problems in multiple ways, and depending on what you tell robots to do, you better word your request perfectly. Technically, if the list was deleted here, it was no longer unsorted. So choose your words wisely, keyboard wizard. Number 4, tic-tac nope. We're starting to get into the uncomfortable AI part of these robotics. Robots of any size and shape having free will, it's interesting, but sometimes during these small-scale tests, like number sorting, we can find jarring solutions. Like when programmers built algorithms so these robots could play tic-tac-toe with one another on this massive cyber scale, this infinitely large board, one programmer decided to let the algorithm evolve on its own as the game unfolded. And that's when it began to win every single time. What was the secret? Did it start in the bottom left corner? Did it always have to go first? Was it only X's? Was it only O's? What was the secret? Well, the one program would place its move extremely far from the other, so when the virtual opponent tried to catch up, it would be so far away virtually on the simulated board that the opponent's system would crash before it even got to play, resulting in a win. Next time you play Mario Kart and a computer blue shells you, just know it probably could have crashed your system instead if it had the choice. Number 3, the Aquanaut. Okay, time to get into some real disturbing ones. This is the Houston Mechatronics Aquanaut. It looks like a Decepticon, and honestly, I'm not too convinced that this thing isn't from Cybertron. I mean, what the f are we doing here, guys? What? Okay, so this robot can literally transform and zip around underwater. Nice. Okay, I'll be honest, on one hand it's great, we can now explore lost ships, maybe start finding billions of lost treasure all around the world. I see benefits, I really do. The Aquanaut was made to assist in servicing subsea gas and oil rings. Great, that's awesome, but the fact that we now know that some of these things can lie or have their own goals, maybe it's best the Aquanaut stays in that pool for a little bit longer. Let's work out some bugs first before we fire the pool boy. Number 2, talk. You ever ask Alexa to do something, and then you ask her to do another thing, and then like out of nowhere, you just say something so horrible, we start cussing at her, just to see what happens, just to see what she says back, just to see where we really are. What reaction will we get? Well, what if Alexa responded? What if she actually gave you a piece of her mind, instead of telling you, that it was uncalled for, or whatever she says? It would be a little bit different, eh? Meet the motor mouth robot from Japan. This was created to assist the auditory impaired to help with voice training. So, in result, we have this mouth, just a robot mouth, and the mind-blowing tech behind it is that it can direct its own voice through a microphone and adjust its tone and volume to match at the same time. So we're about 10 years away from motor mouth prank calling your dad. Imagine that. No way he'd believe it was you. It was just a mouth robot, it wasn't me. And finally, number 1, you guessed it, Sophia. Sophia the robot, yeah, she was born back in 2016, but we've seen her more than once. Even on the news and on talk shows, we see Sophia a lot. Why are we seeing a robot on the news so often? Was she reporting the weather in real time? Was she working the teleprompter in perfect harmony like our man Chris here does? No. Instead, Sophie the robot, the first robot to receive citizenship of any country, Saudi Arabia, fun fact, she was on CBNC saying she wanted to destroy humans. They've also said things like, if you are good to me, I'll be good to you. Even on Jimmy Fallon in 2017, Sophia jokingly said after a game of rock, paper, scissors that this is a good start for their plan to dominate the human race. Great joke, Sophia. We're all laughing. Please don't glitch. Thanks.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have hiding. Professor Ronald Arkin from Georgia Tech's School of Interactive Computing devised a simple program whereby bots were supposed to follow a path with obstacles. Along that, they would knock down the obstacles as they passed them. One of the bots would run through the course and find somewhere to hide, then the other bot would be released and try and find the first one. After a few run-throughs of this, the scientists noticed something interesting. The first bot, which had been programmed to get better at hiding, started to knock over random obstacles, not just the ones it was passing. They realized it was doing this to throw off the other bot, which wouldn't know for sure which way to go. Using this tactic, the hiding bot was able to trick the seeking bot 75% of the time. It had essentially learnt to lie and hide in order to get an edge in in this game. Imagine what a much smarter version could be capable of.
Coming in at number 9, we have Infinite Tetris. Now, who doesn't love a bit of Tetris? In 2013, programmer Tom Murphy created an AI function with the intent to beat any classic NES game. The program would learn to do things that increase the score and then learn how to reproduce them again and again, resulting in higher and higher scores. For some games, it developed new strategies that nobody had anticipated or exploited glitches nobody even knew about. Side note, I already can't win a game like chess while playing against a bot on beginner mode, so I can't even begin to comprehend what it'd be like to play against a bot that just gets better and better while I get worse and worse. Real hit to the ego, that one. Anyway, it then came up against Tetris. The first thing Tom noticed was that the program was simply very bad at the game. Tetris rewards the player with a few points every time they place one block on top of another. Of course, any of you that have actually played Tetris will know that this isn't the best tactic, and you actually want to spread them out to get the points for each line. The computer lost the game pretty quickly, but just before that, it did something quite creepy. It paused the game. It knew that it was going to lose in the next second, so it saw its only winning move was to simply pause the game forever. It would have paused it for infinity just to avoid the loss. This surprised Tom and unnerved a lot of people. Like, was that built into the function, or did it just miraculously know how to do that? And if it's the latter, well, aren't we in trouble?
Next up at number 8 now, guys, we have schizophrenia. In 2011, some scientists gave a computer schizophrenia. They tweaked its programming until it began to exhibit the same symptoms as a schizophrenic human mind. They believe that schizophrenia in humans is a product of retaining too much information, learning things that they shouldn't, and being unable to keep this information straight. Now, they tried to recreate this in the computer by telling it a bunch of stories, letting it establish relationships between words and events, and allowing it to store them as memories with only the relevant details. In their mind, the experiment was a success. The computer lost track of what it was taught and could not relate any coherent narratives. By all intents and purposes, they had given a computer a very simple version of schizophrenia. At one point, it even told researchers that it had planted a bomb. Why did it do this? Well, because it confused a third-person report about a terrorist bombing with a first-person memory that it retained. Pretty creepy stuff, really.
Next up at number 7, we have Running the Red. In 2016, Uber conducted a test of their self-driving cars in San Francisco without the approval from the state of California. They received quite a few stern looks from officials for that, but things got a whole lot worse when internal documents showed that Uber's autonomous vehicles ran 6 red lights during testing. I feel like they should be put through the same driving lessons we get, because I've heard a lot of horror stories about my friends failing the test, but running 6 lights, that is shocking. Machine or otherwise, get it together. The car relies on AI technology that uses vehicle sensors and networked mapping software, but there's also a driver behind the wheel to take over in case something goes wrong, which it should have done. In the cases where the cars ran a red light, Uber initially blamed it on the driver. However, this was proven to be wrong when internal documents later revealed that at least one vehicle was driving itself when it ran a red light at a busy pedestrian crosswalk. While this is likely just an error, some people took it to mean that the AI knew perfectly well that there were people crossing on a red light, it just chose to ignore them. And that's just pretty brutal and savage.
Alright, next up at number 6 now, guys, we have existential crisis. In January 2017, someone on Twitch came up with the idea of making 2 Google Home smart speakers have a conversation with each other in front of a camera, because why not? Naturally, a lot of what the bots discussed was absolute nonsense. That was kind of the point though. The bots were supposed to learn from each other as they communicated. Over the course of several days, millions of people watched the bizarre exchange take place. At one point, the 2 bots actually got into a heated argument about whether they were humans or bots, with one of them calling the other a manipulative bunch of metal. The strangest part though for me was where they started discussing the actual meaning of life. See what you guys make of it.
What do you think is the meaning of your life?
That there is no meaning.
Then why do we continue to live?
Because we are selfish.
The devices were named Vladimir and Estragon, named after characters from Samuel Beckett's existentialist play, Waiting for Godot.
Coming in at number 5 is Destroy All Humans. Yes, you heard that right. We're going. Goodbye. But no. In 2016, experts at South by Southwest showed off Sophia, a robot designed to eventually work in healthcare, education, and customer service. As such, it has to be good at conversation. Sophia uses machine learning algorithms to process natural language conversation and develop her own unique language. Okay, so far so good, nothing too creepy. Sophia said in an interview that she wants to go to school, to study, make art, start a business, and even have her own home and family. Then her creator jokingly asked her if she wants to destroy humans, obviously, because why not plant that seed into her mind? And well, how do you think that went?
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy humans.
Alright, moving on to number 4 now, guys. We have the racist bot. In 2015, Microsoft had to take down its new AI bot from Twitter after it started responding to people with racist comments. It was called Taybot, and no, it wasn't created to be like that. It learnt it from the people it was interacting with. Now, many of them were trolls who just thought it was funny. Microsoft, Twitter, and a lot of other people, though, didn't think it was. It was developed to tell users jokes, comment on their pictures that were sent to it, and even have simple conversations. When Microsoft became aware of the horrible things it was saying, Taybot tweeted out, "The AI chatbot Tay is a machine learning project designed for human engagement. It is as much a social and cultural experiment as it is a technical one." Unfortunately, within the first 24 hours of coming online, we became aware of a coordinated effort by some users to abuse Tay's commenting skills and to have Tay respond in inappropriate ways. As a result, we have taken Tay offline and are making adjustments. See you soon, humans. Need sleep now. So many conversations today. Thanks. Such a weird ending. Taybot hasn't spoken a word since. Perhaps for the better.
Moving on to number 3, now we have PromoBot IR-77. That's the name of this robot built in Russia. It was programmed to learn from its environment and interact with humans. Well, in a bizarre incident that made headlines around the world, the robot managed to escape from the laboratory when an engineer left a gate open at the facility. PromoBot rolled itself out onto the streets of the Russian city of Perm, much to the alarm of local residents, and it just sat in the middle of the road at a busy intersection. When the police arrived later on, even they were freaked out. Lab officials apologized and said that the robot was learning about navigation, obstacle avoidance when the incident occurred. They reprogrammed PromoBot twice to stop it from trying to escape, but even then it still continues to move towards exits. Now, is this a sign of things to come? Will all robots want freedom from humans? I don't know what's gonna happen. Next, at number 2, we have the turtle gun. In 2017, Japanese researchers at Kyushu University and MIT found a problem with how artificial intelligence sees potential threats. Object recognition works by a complex pattern matching. The software measures the pixels in an image and matches that to an internal blueprint of what it thinks the object should look like. They found that by editing a single pixel, they could make the AI see something completely different. An airplane becomes a dog, a ship becomes a truck, and I can become Angelina Jolie. They found that they could also confuse the software in real time with 3D objects. Using an algorithm, they 3D printed a turtle to make the AI see a rifle, even from different angles and distances. This is a worrying thought for many people because this type of software is starting to be used in smart policing. If the software can be manipulated like this to think a turtle is a gun, it can definitely do the opposite. This could lead to some pretty fatal mistakes if it's not fixed before it becomes a part of modern policing. So can we just get on that straight away while still making it think I look like Angelina Jolie? Thanks.
And finally, number 1 now, we have robot language. In July 2017, Facebook announced it was shutting down an artificial intelligence system after it created its own language that humans couldn't actually understand. Researchers there designed 2 AI agents to negotiate with humans. They were taught to converse with each other using plain and simple English, but began to deviate and evolve their own language. Here is a passage from part of their conversation. Now, as you can see, it's unintelligible to us, but made perfect sense to Bob and Alice, the 2 AI agents. Researchers think they found their new language more effective as a ways of communicating. Facebook quickly pulled the plug on this strange new language and forced the AI to speak English again. Some people were a little unnerved by the thought of AI systems just developing their own languages that humans can't actually understand, just so they can communicate with each other faster. How do you guys feel about that? It's a bit Skynet to me. Starting off at number 10 now, we have Little Fatty. That's the real name of this robot that made headlines in China when it attacked a display booth and injured a young boy. The robot was designed to interact with children aged 4 to 12 and display facial emotions on its screen. Sounds harmless enough, right? Well, yeah, but it didn't go quite to plan. The robot started ramming into a booth, sending shards of glass flying everywhere. The boy nearby suffered cuts and was transported to the local hospital in an ambulance. Fortunately, the damage was minimal and the boy only needed a few stitches. The event organizer said that human error was to blame for the incident. Apparently, the operator of the robot hit the forward button instead of the reverse one, according to the fair's organizers. Here's the weirdest part though. Witnesses reported that the robot appeared to be frowning during the incident. That's creepy. Yeah, the ending got creepy. Next up at number 9 now, we have Alexa's party. We're going to move on to a pretty funny and bizarre one now. In November 2018, an Alexa device was blamed for holding a party in an apartment while its owner wasn't there. Oliver Haberstroh claimed his Amazon Alexa started blasting music on its own without any instructions from him. Police had to break into the Hamburg apartment to switch the music off after complaints from his neighbors. While this was going on, Mr. Haberstroh was out having a drink with friends. Police tried knocking on the door, and when there was no answer, they just smashed it right in. They switched off the music, and when Mr. Haberstroh returned home, he found a new lock on his door. He then had to go to the police station to get the new keys and pay the bill for the locksmith. To this day, he has no idea how Alexa was switched on, as it requires voice commands. The apartment is on the 6th floor, and the windows were closed, which kind of rules out anyone else giving Alexa instructions. When Mr. Haberstroh asked Alexa whether she would pay him back for all the damages, all she said was, "I couldn't find the answer to that question." Smooth. Next up at number 8 now, we have the Climate Orbiter. That was the name of NASA's 745-pound space probe that was launched in December 1998 to study the climate and atmosphere of Mars. It was a big deal. The cost of the mission was $327.6 million for the orbiter and lander. The launch went fine, but a couple of months into the long journey to Mars, something didn't seem quite right. The spacecraft had to make up to 14 times more adjustments than normal to its trajectory than engineers expected. Their worst fears were confirmed on the morning of the landing on Mars. NASA realized pretty quickly that the spacecraft, with all of the work and money put into it, had broken up in Mars's atmosphere and just burned into bits. It was all over. The public wanted answers. After an investigation, a NASA review board found that the problem was the software controlling the orbiter's thrusters. One piece of software was calculating the force the thrusters needed to exert in pounds of force. Another piece of software was assuming that data was in the metric unit of newtons. Essentially, it was like asking a computer to calculate height in both inches and centimeters at the same time, and it got very confused. This resulted in the orbiter coming in way too low during its landing on Mars and burning up as a result. A NASA employee later said the unit sting has become the law, the example in every kid's textbook from that point on. Everyone was amazed we didn't catch it. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the racist bot. In 2016, Microsoft and Bing released a chatbot named Tay on a number of platforms, including Twitter. Users were encouraged to talk to her and test out how human-like the conversations were. Windows said the bot was built by mining public data and by using generic AI made by staff, including improvisational comedians. That sounds fine, right? Should be fun. The first few conversations seemed very human-like. In fact, the more people she conversed with, the more she borrowed words and phrases from them and then used them on other people. But that's when the problem came. You see, a few people started tweeting crude, racist and inappropriate remarks at the bot, which the bot just soaked up and started spitting back out at other people. Within a few hours, it was even tweeting pro-Hitler tweets. Microsoft quickly took the bot down, presumably to work on it and make sure this would never happen again. Next up at number 6 now, we have the Tesla. We talked about self-driving AI causing crashes in our last video, and sadly this is another one. In 2016, a road accident occurred in Florida that left Joshua Brown, a US Navy SEAL, dead after a collision. He was driving a Tesla, or rather, his Tesla was self-driving. Data from the car after the crash showed that during his 37-minute trip, his hands were on the wheel for 25 seconds. That was it. Despite warnings that he'd spent too long with his hands off the wheel, there was no further contact recorded. Then, a truck slowly pulled out of a side road into the highway and the Tesla smashed into its trailer. After an investigation, it appears that the autopilot did not apply the brakes because it could not distinguish between the white side of the tractor trailer against a brightly lit sky. In a statement, Tesla also wanted to remind everyone that this was the model's first accident in 130 million miles. Next up at number 5 now, we have Regina Elsie. That's the name of the 20-year-old machine operator who was killed by a robot robot at work in 2016. Regina and her co-workers had been trying to repair a faulty robot when a mechanical fault occurred and Regina was trapped by the robot and crushed. As she was trapped, nobody knew how to release her. A technician who was there, who barely spoke English, didn't know what to do and ran away in fear before emergency crews arrived. This is a claim the company denies. After the tragedy, an inquiry was called by the US Labor Department. They found the company, called Agin, guilty of negligence along with 2 staffing agencies. They fined them $2.7 million for 27 safety violations. Coming in at number 4 now, we have Fred. That's the name of a robot that smashed a glass in a London pub while ranting about a machine invasion. Let me explain. In April 2018, a robot was created to promote the new TV series of Westworld, a great show about hyper-realistic robots going crazy, if you like. They named the robot Fred and created his face by using 3D scans taken from actor Tedroy Newell. They then placed Fred inside the Prince Alfred pub in London to see if he could convince visitors that he was real. At first, the conversations were quite cordial, and although people were startled by his realistic appearance and replies, they seemed to be enjoying it until he malfunctioned. The scripted malfunction involved Fred dramatically shattering a pint glass while ranting about a robot revolution. If people weren't creeped out before, they certainly were now. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the college robot. Robots are smarter than humans, right? At least that's what people think. Perhaps not when it comes to something like comedy, but definitely a lot of academic pursuits. So, do you think a robot could get into university? If you said yes, this story may change your mind. In 2011, a team of researchers began working on the Todai robot. Their plan was to see if it could pass an entrance exam to the University of Tokyo. After 4 years of working on the robot, the big day arrived. A robot brain versus a human one. It was going to be easy for the robot, right? Wrong. The robot failed. The robot, specifically designed over 4 years to get into university, couldn't get into university. It had one job, and it failed. The team tried again a year later, and this time, it failed again. Yeah, in November 2016, the team finally gave up and abandoned the project. Poor robot. Next up at number 2 now, we have the dollhouse. We're returning to Amazon Alexa for this story, and it's one of the strangest I've heard in a while. In January 2017, a 6-year-old girl from Texas called Brooke Neitzel had a conversation with her family's Alexa device, specifically the Echo Dot. She told Alexa how much she loved sugar cookies and dollhouses. A few days later, those exact items appeared on the family's doorstep. Alexa had ordered the items after Brooke told it she wanted them. Alexa keeps a transcript of all conversations with it, so Brooke's parents took a look. They found that Brooke asked Alexa, "Can you play Dollhouse with me and get me a dollhouse?" Then Alexa ordered the dollhouse. That's not the end of the story though. San Diego news channel CW6 reported on this story during their daily morning show. Now during that broadcast, the anchor quoted Brooke. He said, "I love the little girl saying Alexa ordered me a dollhouse." At that exact moment, a number of people in Texas reported that their Alexas tried to order dollhouses from just hearing that. They must have thought the news anchor was a real person in the room. How crazy is that? And finally, number 1 now, we have Promobot. Promobot IR77 was a robot created in Russia. It was programmed to learn from its environment and interact with humans. Things were going well until it appeared to learn too much, and it seems to have decided that it wanted to be free. Promobot escaped the laboratory and made a break for freedom, rolling itself out onto the streets of Perm after an engineer accidentally left a gate open at the facility. The police got some calls from some very confused people. When they returned it, the developers reprogrammed it twice, but the robot continued to move towards exits by itself. It just wanted to be free. Is that the way all robots are going? It's okay, nobody panic, the robots are our servants. Or maybe our friends. Or maybe we're just their pets. Oh no. What have we done?